Greetings, fellow Demon Slayers. This is Taimanin Mari here today with another video. Before getting started, just wanted to remind you guys, Discord link will be in the description for anyone interested in joining the server, coming and hanging out, talking about the game, amongst other things. So to start, Taimanin TV did put out a new video showcasing pretty much white t-shirt skins that will be coming out in Japan. For Action Taimanin, those skins will be for Emily, Koronai, Shiranui, and Morisaki, if I'm remembering right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to link the video in the description. It is like a 60-minute video they did. The video showcases gameplay with Koronai, if anyone's interested in seeing that. And like literally at the very end, they show the art for the skins. Anyone who doesn't want to watch the video, I'll just link a picture of the skins or a screenshot of the skins from the video so you guys can get an idea of how they look. The reason I'm letting you guys know those skins are coming out is because the Halloween skins got teased on Taimanin TV and we did get them relatively fast here on Global. We just obviously did not get Emily's mummy skin because she's not out yet, but we did get the skin for Yuki, Asagi, and Sakura. So anyone interested in the t-shirt skin, we have Shiranui now. Who knows whether Morisaki or Emily is coming next, but they may go ahead and creep them out early for us. So I'm letting you guys know, and there will be a picture so you can see how it looks. For today's topic, I just want to go over weapons to look out for. For anyone who may not know, or anyone who may be new and unsure like what pulls are actually good when they're pulling for weapons or when they're getting ultra rare weapons. So we're going to go to the Gacha screen. We'll just get all the weapons that are ultra rare. Here we go. Okay. So for starters, we have the Naraku, the Phantom Knife, and Greek Fire. They're kind of in the same weapon family. They each do different things. I will say now, the Greek Fire for Yukikaze is basically best in slot for PvE. You're not going to get much better than this weapon due to the way it handles the super armor of the enemies. It then buffs her when that armor pops, or rather buffs her skill damage. So if you get your hands on a Greek Fire, definitely good in PvE, like no question about it. Next we'll look at the Naraku and the Phantom Knife. They have kind of the same type of ability. The Naraku would increase attack damage by 1% for 8 seconds. That stacks to 50 times. If you are hit, it loses all stacks. This weapon is really good for people who like to run time attacks, as you can get like the fastest time as long as you're not getting hit. It's also not half bad in PvP because Asagi likes to stop time. So there's going to be instances where she's getting 5, 10, 15 hits off without actually taking damage in a PvP setting, making it not half bad of a weapon. The active doesn't seem that great, but it does make the Asagi invulnerable while the active is being fired off. So that also would be useful in a PvP setting, because if she fires off Naraku or uses the skill, she actually isn't taking damage during that, and it sets her off to release an onslaught of attacks. The Phantom Knife, it's literally kind of the same exact thinking as the Naraku. It's really good in time attack if you're looking for the fastest time and you're able to get through it without getting hit once. Personally, I can't do it, but people out there do swear by these weapons. And the only difference between Naraku is for the stacks, you would be getting critical damage as opposed to attack damage. And the same idea, it stacks up to 50 times, and you lose all stacks upon being attacked. The active is different, as it is an area around Sakura as opposed to a range attack, but again, it also makes her invulnerable. It is not a bad weapon to use in PvP either, because when Sakura gets her spin off, she's typically not getting hit, so she'll be able to stack some decent damage off of spins and things like her shurikens. Like, you're definitely not going to get to 50 stacks in PvP, but if you can, say, get to 10 stacks and she lands a crit, you're probably going to pop someone. So all three of these weapons are generally good to look out for. I do think Naraku and Phantom Knife do best in time attack or PvP. I don't like them in your general like doing dailies or events or main quest, but that's my opinion. Like I said, some people swear by them. And doing other like things like events and main quests for the Naraku and the Phantom Knife, I think your best weapon to be used would be the Yamiku Umaru here for Asagi, because it gets a stacking debuff on the enemy as she crits, and her getting hit doesn't remove the stacks, and that can stack up to 5 times at S level 1 for a 20% debuff on the enemy, which is it's a defense debuff. So she'll just simply be doing more damage anyway. The active increases critical rate. I would refrain from using it since it is 6 Taimanin particles. You'd probably be better to save for the ult. But again, in a PvP setting, this active does make her invulnerable. So if she does pop it, it can lead to an opening where she can get damage in. And the same thing applies to the Garou Kiba. It's the same exact ability as the Yamiku Umaru, the same rebellious weapon set. Again, anywhere like dailies, main story quest, or any sort of event, I do stick with using Garou Kiba for Sakura, because it's just easier to handle. If she gets hit, you don't really get a huge damage runoff. You're just looking for her to crit. And the weapons do provide relatively high crit at S level 5, so they will be able to get critical hits off. The Onibamori is good on Yukikaze. It Arguably, I think it is better in PvP than the Greek Fire. Obviously, this is barring that you do not have any PvP weapons. Only because of the damage or the defense debuff, and the fact that Greek Fire likes to focus on super armor, making it amazing for PvE. But in PvP, the enemies don't have super armor. So if you're able to run Onibamori and let her fish for crits at a distance, then it will give them the stacking defense debuff we mentioned with the Sakura and Asagi versions of the weapons, allowing her to do more damage from range. But it does come second place for PvE because the way the Greek Fire handles super armor is just insanely powerful. I would not say the Onibamori is bad though. Either is a very viable ultra rare for Yukikaze. Now we come down, we see the Kirin. Now this weapon is definitely best in slot for Renko, like I think pretty much everywhere. Though weapon active is so powerful, and it only costs 3 particles. Like I literally, when I play Renko, it's to the point that I don't even use her ult. I just use this weapon because 2 or 3 of these fired off, especially if it crits, will basically add up to more DPS than her ult, which is insane, and it knocks back the enemies. I think the only drawback is that it does it in a straight line, but since enemies like to kind of come at you in like a pack, like you'll notice if you like retreat backwards from enemies, they kind of line up nicely for you in this game. I guess due to how the AI is programmed, but they just programmed to come at you and follow you. So you can just kind of take a couple steps back and fire off Kirin, and you have a good shot of hitting everything. The passive is also absurd because every basic attack or normal attack she lands has a chance to do 120% attack damage and makes the target groggy. 5% may seem low, but because of the nature of her attacks, especially the final hit, she basically does like a Virgil slash that multi-hits in an area if you let her resolve her final hit. So it's really easy to fish for the groggy procs and the 120% damage proc. And then on top of that, having her active just provides her with a nice amount of CC and a good damage multiplier of 480% at base. The Yomigumo falls under the same family of rebellious weapons as something like, say, the Garou Kiba or the Yamiku Umaru. A great weapon overall. Like I love all of the rebellious weapons because being able to just get a stacking debuff on the enemy while critting is always good. Just in Renko's case, the Kirin is the superior choice. But if you have a Yomigumo, you will not have a bad time. It is still a very powerful weapon, viable in both PvE and PvP until you can get your hands on her actual PvP weapon. But if you do have Kirin, especially if you have it at, say, S level 2 and up, you may be better served to just use that over the PvP weapon even, just because of how persistent the groggy can get in a actual PvP match. I've had matches where Renko has just unlocked out people's team due to Lucky's procs. So, again, Kieran for her is just the best choice in my opinion. Next we come to the weapons for she who shall not be named. The Cocytus is probably the best choice. The passive is okay. It's not really the greatest thing ever. You probably won't even make it to full particles, honestly, so I think it's kind of counterproductive, but the active is really where this weapon shines. The ability to deal 515% damage and then knocking up enemies in an area, which means they will land on their back, so it will result in a knockdown, basically. For only 3 particles is huge. Someone sent me a screenshot of this weapon at S level 4. The percentage on that active is about 908%, if I'm remembering right, on the S level 4 version of this weapon. So, if you were lucky enough to get this weapon for She Who Shall Not Be Named, then you're going to be in a really good place. As always, I don't think she's super great in PvE. I'm sorry, PvP. She's great in PvE. But in a PvP setting, I think even having this knockup will take care of you, even though she's not super great in that mode. And for PvE, this weapon will be just a huge boon for her. And as always, if you do not have a Cocytus, the Shikigiri is a very viable choice until you can get your hands on it. With just the flat the flat defense debuff to enemies is just great. And if you were lucky enough to get your hands on a Hibiki, like, you can pair Hibiki, the supporter, with these rebellious weapons and just get easy procs on her 20% buff to basic attacks, which would help with this character because she does like to basic attack. But again, the Cocytus is the plain winner for a PvE setting. For PvP, if you really insist on using her there, I would try to go for her weapon at the end of the day, like her actual PvP weapon, but this will hold you over until you can get that. Next we look at the Snare series of weapons, or the Hunter's Vestige family. Basically, they increase normal attack damage against snared enemies by 15%. Normal attacks deal 24% damage against random enemies. And I believe they all have the same multiplier, if I'm remembering right. Yes, they do. So, I'm going to start by saying the only one I really would ever try to make viable is the one for Sakura. And the reason being is because of, where is she? This supporter. It seems like a worthwhile weapon to pair with this supporter, since the weapon's whole stick is doing snare, and Sakura, as of right now, is the only character who has an on-demand snare with her perfect dodge. So, while I do think Garou Kiba and Phantom Knife are better choices, are her PvP weapon if you're playing PvP, I do think that her Hunter's Vestige weapon will find some sort of use. If you're able to get your hands on her supporter, then you could go ahead and pair it with something like, I believe it's Saika Fuma. Let me just go to my inventory, because I could be totally wrong about her name. Where is she? There she is. Yes, Saika Fuma. Okay, so you could pair that weapon with the Sakura supporter, and then this supporter in the backdrop, like as a, a back row supporter or sub supporter. That way your snare damage is just going to get out of control and a bit silly. So it's more of a theory craft thing. I don't think it's going to be like her best build ever, but if you have the means to build it, or if, for example, that may be your only ultra rare weapon for Sakura, then it's not a bad idea to go for it. But otherwise, I do think Garou Kiba and the Phantom Knife are superior to the Yamada no Orochi. Now I'm going to look over just some super rare weapons. Any super rare weapon like this Vajra Scepter here, and I believe the other weapon that shares the ability would be the Ley Line. The increased damage dealt to demons by 80% is definitely worth it. Like, it's worth for farming the gold daily and the I believe the Shard Daily for the materials for supporters, where all the enemies are demons. It's also been really worth it to use in story for the past chapters because everything has been a demon. And then chapters 4 and 5, I believe, if you're doing time attack, it's worth it there because everything is a demon. And chapter 6 and 7 time attacks would also all be demons. So whew, basically, these weapons are not bad. They're good super rares to look out for. I keep it on my Renko at all times, and on She Who Shall Not Be Named, as side weapons for when they have to deal with fighting demons. Other weapons to look out for would be the Protoplasma weapon. As a super rare at S level 5, it does give 28% critical rate. And the sister weapon to that would be... here it is. The skeleton knife for Sakura. You would also score that critical rate from using this weapon. So if you have no other like ultra rare alternatives, these are not bad weapons to look out for as super rare alternatives for Sakura, Renko, and She Who Shall Not Be Named. Now looking at Asagi, a great super rare alternative would be the magnetic sword. It does increase her normal attacks by 40%. And the final hit of the normal attack is granted knockback. This is actually even good in PvP. I've seen people run this with Kojenka, and once she scores that knockback, it's really hard to recover because she's just going to keep beating on you with basic attacks and perfect dodging to increase the scenario where you do get stun locked. It's also good in PvE because Asagi likes basic attacking anyway, so having a super rare that just flat buffs the damage of them by 40% and then adds knockback gives her a nice little bit of CC to use on top of a good damage buff. And this will basically hold you over until you're able to get an ultra rare weapon for her and get duplicates of it. So Magnetic Sword is a great alternative for Asagi as a super rare. Another weapon family, like I'll mention it, but it's not like probably better than other super rares, would be the Sanguine Spiral family. They restore 1% of HP of damage dealt with skills. And I believe there's one for Asagi, Sakura, and then Yuki. So these are good to use when if you really have nothing else. They'll help you to, at the very least, sustain while giving you a super rare beat stick until you're able to get like a better super rare or ultra rare. Because I know when you first start the game out, like some people I know, like one of my good friends, he was stuck with a rare weapon for Sakura for the longest time. Like he just was not getting any super rares or ultra rares for her. So in the case of if he had pulled this weapon, it would have helped him more than hindered him. Obviously, it isn't the best choice, though. As Skeleton Knife, I feel would be the best ultra rare alternative. And then, again, for Sagi, the Magnetic Sword would be the best ultra rare alternative. If you don't have one, those super rares would definitely be your best alternative to not having an ultra rare. Looking at Yuki, I kind of like her super rares. The Magnum Revolver would just make her attack faster during normal attacks, which isn't that bad with someone who is a gunslinger and they like to play at range anyway. So I would say you'd be fine using the Magnum Revolver as an alternative to not having an ultra rare. And even her White Crown is good, as it would increase damage dealt to all enemies by 30% while her particles are charged. That is a huge buff. The only thing I don't like about it is you basically won't be able to ult. You will be stuck using like skills and basic attacks to exploit the 30% buff. Out of the two, I like the Magnum Revolver better, obviously. But if you're stuck with a White Crown, it isn't the worst thing ever. Another honorable mention would be the Lionheart for Sakura. Basically, enemies get a 25% chance of dropping a Valiant Heart. Picking up the Valiant Heart makes you invulnerable for 10 seconds. That 25% rate of that dropping would go up as the S level of the weapon goes up. I'm too poor right now to showcase it at S level 5 because it would drain my gold. But, again, not a bad alternative. If you're a newer player, you don't have anything, and you happen to get your hands on this weapon, this is just going to make her invulnerable for 10 seconds as long as you're able to at least kill the stuff and proc the chance of the Valiant Heart dropping. So she may not clear the fastest, but she will survive. And I think that is everything I wanted to mention. I know it was a bit wordy and a lot of things were said, but for a quick synopsis, for PvE for Yuki, Greek Fire would be your best choice. Onibamori would be a close second. Her PvP weapon does pull ahead of both. For Renko, in my opinion, I feel like the Kirin is just good everywhere, whether it be time attack, PvP, or PvE. In Sakura's case, time attack, run Phantom Knife. Run the Garou Kiba anywhere in any other piece of content that is PvE. And for PvP, Phantom Knife or Garou Kiba are great options, but her PvP weapon will be the best option. In Asagi's case, I personally feel her best PvP weapon, and it isn't mentioned here because I don't have it or a way to show it, would be the Auron weapon that comes from her White Almighty Gacha, which is limited, so maybe I'll go for it next time that Gacha is up if it does come back. That weapon basically works like... Where is she? Like a Mane Fuma, where it will knock back enemies as she's hit, and it does increase her skill damage, like flat, just for wearing the weapon. So for PvP, I do feel Auron is her best choice, or her PvP weapon. But for PvE, definitely either the Naraku for time attack, or the Yami Kuimaru anywhere else for Asagi. And then for She Who Shall Not Be Named, I do not have those weapons, but the Cocytus would be the best choice for PvE. For PvP, you would definitely want your hands on her actual PvP weapon, but again, she is very lackluster in PvP, so you may find success with the other characters easier than using her. And as far as super rare alternatives, both the Vajra Scepter and the Protoplasma weapon would be a great alternative if you don't have an ultra rare for She Who Shall Not Be Named. For Renko, the ley line is a great alternative even if you do have an ultra rare if you are going up against demons. The magnetic sword is a great super rare to use if you have no ultra rare for Asagi. For Yukikaze, you could either rock with the white crown or the Magnum Revolver. I feel the Magnum Revolver is the strongest choice out of the two if you find yourself without an ultra rare for her. And the best option for Sakura would be the Skeleton Blade because of the critical rate. And I think that will pretty much cover what is in the game. I will end by saying these bundle weapons, so this Lone Valiant, and then where is it? The Soul Invictus. They're awful. God, are they awful. The only reason I level them is just sometimes I have nothing to throw in my facility, so I level these up slowly just to do it, because I'm not going to break them down, as they're limited items, and woo, they're in my collection. But they're terrible. Their effects, it's just the worst thing ever. Okay, so it says when particle is fully charged, increase damage by 28% for 8 seconds. The issue with that is if your particle's charge as the boss spawns and you sit through the cutscene, the damage buff is gone. And just terrible weapons overall. They come in the bundles when you buy the characters for real money. But they're just not great. Even super rares I feel are better than these items. Even with the base damage they provide, just because their actual abilities are so awful, so... I just wanted to let anyone know that may be using these. The other issue with them is, as of right now, there's no way to get duplicates of them. The only way you were able to get them is from the Renko or the bundle for She Who Should Not Be Named. So, without being able to duplicate them, they're not even worthwhile to use for, their potential base stats. Because as you can see here, an Ultra Rare at S level 5 has really high base stats. So, I just thought I'd tack that on for anyone excited about those weapons. They're not great. They're pretty much glorified super rares. You'd be better to just use an S level 5 super rare over these. And that will cover every weapon currently in the game. Oh, I'm sorry. One more. Then I will let you guys go. I did forget to mention the Ninja Dagger Keybow for Sakura. This will allow her Shadow Spin to make an additional spin, but it causes the spins to cost 14% of her particles. And you can dodge out of this spin now to cancel it. I don't think it's a bad weapon. I do feel like the Kiba and the Phantom Knife are better, personally. I don't have the means to pull this weapon and test it. I believe I said that when the gacha came up. So I have no way to really test it and give like a solid opinion from gameplay. But on paper, I like the defense debuff of all the rebellious weapons, so Garou Kiba to me would seem better. And Phantom Knife, even with the stipulation of getting hit, seems better because if you play Sakura well enough, she's probably the hardest to hit because she's a spaz and ports all over the place. So I even like that over this. And then for PvP, again, her PvP weapon is more applicable than this weapon in my opinion. But I thought I'd mention it as it is an ultra rare. It's definitely something worth using if it is all you have. It would outshine any of the super rares for her. And with that, that is every weapon currently available or that has been available in the game. It has been mentioned. Out of every weapon, though these are the weapons I think would serve you the most for the situation stated and would help you to realize best in slot if you do get your hands on any of them. And it will just help you to get the most bang out of your characters. So with that will resolve the video. Again, the link for the Discord server will be in the description for anyone interested. And the link to the Taimanin TV will be in the description for anyone interested in seeing some Kurenai gameplay. Like I said, it is a 58-minute video, so if you want to skip around to the parts you want to see, I highly advise it. Or if you have an hour to kill and you have some sort of understanding of Japanese, give it a watch. For anyone who does not want to sift through that video, I will have the link to the screenshot of the white t-shirt skins that are coming out in Japan in the description as well, so you can just get a look at those and go on about your day. If you found the video helpful, please like and subscribe, as it really does help out the channel. From there, I wish you guys a great rest of your day. Good luck in the arena and in your gachas. And you guys take care.